From there, we're going to assemble the faceplate. The faceplate has the most parts of anything. One thing that I want to point out is behind the faceplate, we have the fewest number of parts pretty much in the industry. On a comparable Stolting, there's 26 parts behind the faceplate. On a comparable Taylor, there's 18. We have 2 beaters, 2 ripple seals, and 4 O-rings. We used to not have the O-rings, but the O-rings are a very good idea. We put them on there for the pressurized machines to make sure that there was no leakage, because of the extra pressure. So on our faceplate, this is the faceplate. You have 3 plungers that go in here. They're called draw valves. Along with those, this faceplate is the new design, which is self-closing. On some of the older models, we didn't have that feature. Now, because of the yogurt shops and stuff like this, a lot of times they want self-closing handles. So these springs go in there and push the handles back pretty much, and to allow for closing of the draw valves. Okay, so next we start with the draw valves. There's 3 draw valves on the machine. 2 of them are identical. They are the outside ones. They have 3 grooves on each one. The center one is different. It's got some side slots that go between to keep the product from migrating from the chocolate side to the vanilla side when this machine is just cycling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the O-rings on these first. Then after we get all the O-rings on, we'll lubricate them and insert them into the faceplate. So you've got 3 O-rings on that one. Sometimes these are easier to get on when you don't have big fingers like I do. But got the 3 O-rings on that one. And then on this one, we have 2 regular O-rings for top and bottom, and then we have the middle one, which has those little bars on the side. I call it the H O-ring. And I'll show you in a second what I mean. So you have 2 O-rings, top and bottom, and then you have the H bars in between. There's grooves for those to fit into, so that now you can't get product transfer from the left side to the right side, because it's creating a seal where the twist feature is built into the faceplate. Okay, so now we're going to put a little bit of lubricant on each one. And then the biggest thing here is when you clean these, you have to take the O-rings off to clean the grooves. The grooves are where the bacteria would start to build, because product will sit in there and then it will start to allow bacteria to build up and form in there. So now what we're going to do, we're going to insert the springs onto each one of these, and as we go, we're going to push them into to the opening. Now, one of the things that you should do is the hole for the handle should line up to the front of the faceplate. It makes everything easier to finalize the assembly, because that's what the end of the handle is going to fit into, and when you put all that together, which I'll show you in a minute, you'll be able to see. But it's already lined up pretty well the way it needs to be. So now all 3 handles are basically the same. There's no difference. We have a rod, the pivot rod that goes across. So as we push these up, that's why getting them lined up ahead of time helps the process. And these can be in either way. It's a matter of preference how much you want them to stick out in the front of the machine once it's assembled. So we're going to put together like this today. Sometimes people turn them around. There's no right or wrong. Either way works. Once you have the handles started in the position, then you just line them up as you're sliding the pivot rod through. Go all the way through, put the knob on the other end, and now you have that part assembled. These are the design caps. They just snap on here. There's 3 of them. They put the little ribs in the ice cream as it's dispensing to make it look pretty. That's the only thing they do. They don't have any other function. After that, we have the discharge door, the O-rings. These, there is a right and a wrong. If you look at them closely, one side of this is flat, the other side is round. You can put them in either way, but technically you should put the flat side down because of the groove. The flat side, the bottom of the groove is flat as well, so they can go in there like that. Once you have them seated down in there, you can see that they stick up a little bit, but they shouldn't be sticking out a lot. If they're sticking out a lot, then they're not seated down into the groove the way they should be. Next, we're going to put the faceplate on the front of the machine. We line it up on the bolts, slide it on. Then we have the 4 hand screws that secure the faceplate to the front of the machine. I always do everything in a crisscross pattern. That keeps you from stressing out the faceplate. If you tighten it up too tight, side to side, doesn't happen often, but you could potentially crack a faceplate. It's been a long time since I've ever seen that, but this is the proper way to snug them up. After they're snug, you want to recheck them after your machine has run and the product is cold, because some of the O-ring will shrink a little bit from getting cold, and then it will be loose enough to possibly leak a little bit. Okay, so that takes care of basically assembling the main portion of the machine. What we have left are the mix inlet tubes, or the air tubes. These are a new design that we came up with. They do have a number of O-rings on them because they're made to be adjustable. You can see we have different size holes depending on the volume that you're doing during the day. If it's a slow day, you might run it on the small hole. At night, you would put it in the space in between, which is no hole, to keep the product from migrating down into the freezing cylinder. And if you get real busy and you're slammed with a lot of people in line, you might have to open these up to the big hole. This affects how the product feeds down into the machine. If you don't have it on a big enough hole, you could possibly starve the freezing cylinder and run it out of product. This is something that you have to kind of get used to as you're operating the machine and you see how traffic comes and goes. You don't have to put them on the biggest hole all the time. The whole idea here is that you want to try and maintain your overrun, say 40 to 50% for standard soft serve product, and it's just a means of accommodating the higher traffic flow when you need to, and the rest of the time you can probably get by with a smaller setting. These don't really need, I got a little too much lubricant here, but they don't need a whole lot of lubricant. It's just mostly to keep so that the O-rings can slide in there without without binding. Put a little bit down here so that they can slide into the hole correctly. And then this is the air orifice. He just pops in there like that. Again, here's the little O-ring on the bottom. Put a little bit more lubricant on there. The lubricant I'm using is made by Sterashine. It's a food grade lubricant for soft serve ice cream machines. There's another one out there called Petrogel. You know, these are pretty common products in the industry that you'll see out there. And so we got both of them set on the small hole. We're going to put our O-rings on and put a little bit of lubricant on there. One thing about when you have to clean the machine, this lubricant does not wash off with soap and water very easily. The best thing to do is, as you're disassembling the machine, is to wipe everything off with paper towels and throw the paper towels away. Then wash the parts with something probably at least as strong as Dawn, because you do have to cut through that, and you want to get all the old lubricant off of the parts before you reassemble it. People always ask me, how long does it take to clean the machine? These machines are, because we have fewer parts than anybody else, they're pretty quick. A rookie will obviously take a little bit longer in the beginning, but and the whole idea in a store is not to have everybody being in charge of cleaning the machines. Get one or two people, train how to do it, and let them do it on a repeat basis, because the more often they do it, the better they get at it. That machine will take, I would say a reasonable average is 30 minutes from start to finish. You know, in the beginning it might take them 45 minutes to an hour, but as they get more proficient at it, then they'll be faster. And really, you know, the nice thing is the fewer parts you have, like with these machines, the less parts you have to lose, the less parts you have to clean, and it just goes faster. So we're going to take these and we're going to lay them up here in the top. And because the next step that we're going to do is sanitize the machine. As you can see in here, this machine has, this is the mix level probe. It senses how much mix is left in the hopper. When it gets low enough, then the indicator will come on and tell you that you need to add mix. Basically, this one is the low side of the mix level sensor. So basically, it's sensing how much liquid there is. If it's touching the probe, then the light stays off. If nothing is touching it, then the indicator will come on.